Hey YouTube, hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. It's having a great Black Friday, whether you're just staying in or shopping at a brick and mortar or online. Hope everyone has a good weekend and everything. So just kind of wanted to turn out a quick video here, just kind of recent portfolio performance, market conditions, how I'm doing, all that kind of fun stuff. So, as most of you know, the last 2 months haven't been too kind in the markets. Kind of see my performance here today. The market was actually only open a couple hours today until noon due to Black Friday. So, not too much market action going on today, obviously. But yeah, past week, down 6%. Last month, down almost 40%. So, obviously, a lot of red in the markets. Options are definitely a big part of it, but a lot of big players aren't doing too well as well. So, kind of gonna take through some of them. So we kind of see a match here as the first one. Down $200 on my initial investment, but I was obviously up for a good amount. But I did cash out my initial 5 contracts, so I did make about a $700 profit. So we'll see what happens with this. See how the market shakes out in December and half of January when these expire. So we'll see what we can do about these. Micron, obviously a lost cause, down a little over $100 on that one. So definitely a learning experience with Micron. Buying something that I wasn't too familiar with, kind of just, seeing that other people were buying it made me want to kind of dip my toes into it. So, obviously didn't know much about memory cards, all that kind of stuff. So, definitely won't make that mistake in the future. Activision has honestly been one of the worst performers the last month. Down over 27%, down over 33% last 3 months. So, really, honestly, it was very overvalued compared to the other gaming stocks. I mean, its price earnings was over 100. Now it's around 67. But, obviously the big catalyst with this was the Black Ops 4 sales. The data from the first couple of days didn't match up to prior year sales. So, obviously we went down on the news that it was, just as good or less popular than last year's version. So definitely people cashing out of Activision recently, especially with the recent market conditions, kind of going more into those safer, conservative value stocks, utilities, things like that. Activision wasn't on the radar, so people sold off. Long term, though, still believe in it. Excuse me. It's a great company. Has some great franchises, and obviously still riding the esports wave. So, Activision's still my plays long term. Square, also down on this call. Obviously, it's a 2020. I'm gonna hold on to it, as well as the Activision one. But yeah, Square's been down good amount the last 3 months as well, down over 20%. So did briefly hit 100 here back in September, October, but since that time, it has dipped. So same story as Activision. People transitioning out of those growth stocks, kind of reallocating their investments towards safer positions. So those are the options plays there. I did want to mention I did sell my Microsoft call. I did break even on that one. That was around $115. So I felt it was just kind of a good to at least break even on something, especially something that was a little risky. If anything, I would love to get back into Microsoft calls in the future. But, I don't think they've been hit as hard as other companies. But didn't want to take the risk. Withdrew some money. Always good to have some cash on hand. And we'll see what our next buys will be. So, kind of running through the portfolio of stocks here. So, Costco, it's held in there, down 5% over the last 3 months. Still up on the year. It's done pretty well. Still a big believer in them. Planet Fitness, they had great earnings. Still up. You can see 11% last month. Still doing really well. So Planet there. Berkshire Hathaway also kind of withstanding this correction pretty well as well. Still up on my initial investment here with Berkshire. So moving on to Discover. Also kind of down recently. Still hanging in there. It's basically been flat the whole year. It's up and down. So I'll see what I do about Discover after the new year. Potentially sell it or buy more. We'll see. Bank of America, just like other banks, kind of hanging in there. But still down or slightly up, but flat for the last year. But still doing really well. Good hold. 15 shares right now. Moving on to Apple, which I think is next to Activision been hit really hard, with people reporting slower iPhone demand, and their suppliers aren't getting as many orders from Apple and things like that. So obviously down 20% the last 3 months, flat on the year. But I mean, it's Apple. It's done this before. There's been scares like this, back around 2016 here. I remember slowing iPhone demand, all that kind of stuff. But obviously with the market conditions, increasing interest rates, and this news out of Apple, it's been down. But good news is I did go Black Friday shopping for a little bit today, and obviously the Apple store was packed. So it's funny, a couple guys passing by said, "Gotta buy Apple stock." I'm like, yeah, pretty much, because people are still flocking to Apple. They're still selling iPhones. They're making more money on services, and they have a great ecosystem. So, I don't see Apple going anywhere. But 20% of my portfolio already. Not looking to buy more, but I totally would. I would have no problem doing that. So I'm slightly down on that initial average cost for Apple, but I'm very comfortable holding it. Especially, it's one of the biggest company in the world, and it's, for a hardware-based company, it's got a 14p, but I mean, it's doing so many good things within, like I mentioned, within AI and services that they're going to transition away from the hardware, and it won't be a big deal. So great stock to own long term, in my opinion. Activision, kind of talked about that, that big dip recently. Constellation Brands also has dipped surprisingly. Obviously it has that investment in Canopy Growth. It owns 38% of the company. So wheat stocks have dipped. So obviously Constellation was going to dip a little bit as well, but also, still pretty good value on it with 12 price to earnings, but down. Still comfortable holding. Still a great stock, so long-term hold for me. And then Zoetis, who's kind of held in there pretty well. So Pet Pharma there. And just pharma in general, I've noticed, has been doing really well. If you kind of look at big names like Johnson & Johnson, you can see they're up to 142. And obviously the recent dip hasn't really impacted Johnson & Johnson, for example. I kind of want to check a couple other ones here from Merck. Let's see here. Kind of see, they're also kind of trending up. So pharma in general, I mean, has done pretty well the last month or two. So may not be a bad investment to consider alongside other names like consumer staples and utilities. So pharma may be a good safe haven for the time being. So, let me know what you guys think. Hopefully your portfolios aren't as red as mine, but definitely discouraging, but nothing impossible to dig out of. Doing this for the long term. So definitely thinking with not going to be panic selling or anything like that. If anything, like I mentioned before, there's blood on the streets. This is when you buy. So great opportunities if you can find them. My suggestions, always look for companies that are undervalued, whether there's a bull market or correction or a bear market. There'll always be undervalued companies. So, just kind of see, if they have a moat, their customer base, just public opinion. Obviously, check the financials and just yeah, invest in what you know. I always want to preach that. So, yeah, hope everyone has a great weekend. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.